Hi, Peter Graham here, and I'm with Danielle Robertson. I've got to get that right because occasionally I'll get it wrong. And Danielle has a business called DR Solutions, which means nothing, of course, but Danielle's here to help us understand what DR Solution does. So, hi Danielle.
Hello, Peter, and it's DR Care Solutions.
Oh, DR Care Solutions. Well, there you go. Okay, well, we've got it right at least, so that's good.
Got the name right, got the company right.
And I'm always fascinated by what you do because the way I perceive it is that you know a lot about aged care facilities and all of those issues that people need to know and understand. And you package it in a totally different way. So what actually do you do?
What do I do? Do you want me to give you some background as to who I am so that
Sure.
I can actually then...
Start with that.
Okay, because that sort of guides us to where I'm at today and how I support families. So 1967, my mum started a company called Dial and Angel, and that was the initial or the only home care provider in Australia at that time. There was no home care. It was after I was born. Mum was very, very unwell, and she needed support because I was a third child. I was the third baby. So she had a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old. So she came up with this idea that she needed to have some support in the home. As I said, there was no government support. When Dad phoned the local council, there was no one to support. You should have booked 9 months ago. My dad said, well, if my wife had known she was going to be ill, she wouldn't have fallen pregnant in the first place. Anyway, fast forward, Mum grew this business Australia-wide, so that was to help people remain at home. There was nannies, babysitters, domestic cleaners, gardeners, aged care, disability care, but everything in the home. Gardeners, party help if you're having a party at home, anything to do with the home or family, we provided help for. I came into the business in 1986, which is a long time ago. It's actually 36 years. That's a long time.
That's when I first met you, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Over at Edgecliff.
Yes.
That
was later on. 1990 was Edgecliff. Yeah. And there you go. So I learned the business from the ground up. I implemented processes and computer systems. We grew. We had 10 offices Australia-wide. We had 10,000 angels, 40,000 clients, 85 office staff. 3 of those offices were franchised, so Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth were franchised, but the rest were company owned. So I became CEO in 2003 when Mum retired. She said that only Prince Charles had had a longer apprenticeship than me at that time. I'd worked with Mum 17 years. So fast forward, I remained in the business till 2014 when we sold the business. So I was also an expert witness on the cost of care for people who'd been injured in motor vehicle accidents, personal injury claims, dust diseases tribunals. So I was able to assess a client's care needs and quote the sort of care that they were going to need now, or past care, current care, and into the future. So when I left the family business and we sold the business in 2014, and I went out and started consulting in 2015, a financial advisor asked me to come and speak to one of his family clients about the different care options available for this family. Traditionally, financial advisors would say sell the family home and relocate into residential aged care. But he knew that I had a lot of experience in home care and other options that I could speak to this family about. So I did this 5 times for this one financial advisor. I didn't know how to quote because I'd only just gone into consulting. So I thought to myself, is this a business? So for 5 families, I supported this one financial advisor. 2 of them, I did a care needs assessment, developed a plan for those people and found them quality home care, introduced home care. 1 couple I found a retirement community on the northern beaches of Sydney and worked with them through that process, handheld them. And 2 others I helped into residential aged care. So I was looking for different things that I could point out to them for them to select the right home, not just a bed, for their ageing loved one. Disability care was also something that I've been approached to do as well. So a number of clients who are under the age of 65 need NDIS if they have a permanent disability. Anyone over the age of 65 can go through the aged care system. And that's where my business now helps and supports families to find the right care, support and accommodation for anyone in Australia. So what we do is most of the referrals come through people I know, and that's a much better idea to have those because I trust those people that are in my network. It's a nice introduction. I will then go and meet with the clients. There's usually an obligation-free call initially, up to an hour, just so I can gather as much information and see if I can help them and understand where they're at in their ageing and care and living journey. Because everyone's at different ages, and some people try it themselves and they hit roadblocks. Others have nowhere to go, don't have any idea of where to start. Others, they go, well, I have a good idea because we placed mum into care 20 years ago, but I think things have changed since then, right? And some people have done it once or twice and think they're experts, but they've mucked up the financial piece or they've mucked up the estate planning piece. So I bring in aged care accredited financial advisors. I don't touch the financial piece. I don't touch the estate planning, but I bring in estate planners to make sure that the person's powers of attorney, enduring guardianship, their will and their advanced care directive are all done. So the full suite of estate planning. So it's a very holistic approach. So when I meet with a client, usually a lot of the time it's a couple. One usually has dementia and one's frail-aged. And it's the adult children that contact me and go, we need help, we need support. We need someone external to have those difficult discussions with mum and dad. They're in denial that they actually need the support. We need someone else to come in and talk to them about the different options. Not so much care, but about what options are available to them. Because people, older Australians, hear the word care and they just put their balls up. So it's actually not talking about care, it's how can we support you on your next stage in your ageing care journey. So I meet with them, I undertake a full care needs assessment. So that is not only physical care needs, but cognitive care needs. It's understanding their wants and wishes. It's understanding where they want to age. Do they want to remain at home? Have they got the financial capacity to remain at home? If they don't, how can we support them to get the next best thing? People are on pensions and they've got limited means, they've got limited options. So we then develop a life plan, and that life plan has resources in it to help them and support them. If they want to remain at home, it might be modifications for the home. It might be audible, like talking books, if they've got vision impairment. It could be as simple as a Connect video phone, which is a phone that you can have parents or people from overseas contacting you to talk to you and keep in socialisation and keeping in the community. It also includes in the life plan is a carer profile. So by the time I get to meet the family, I have a really good picture of that sort of carer that would be good for that particular person. So I document that and highlight that in the life plan. That life plan then goes across to home care providers or residential aged care homes so that they've got a really good picture of where this person's at, what their likes are, what their dislikes are, what their wants and wishes are. A lot of people go, I don't like curries. That's important to capture because if they're eating, whether they've got home care providers coming in cooking for them, they don't want curries. Or if they're in an aged care home, make sure that that's documented that they don't like curries. But it's also thinking about their hobbies. What did they used to do? What was their occupation? Because to me that helps with the match, make sure that we get the match. In 8 years that I've been consulting, I've helped just over 525 families to get the right care support and accommodation right around Australia. So it's not just Sydney, not just Melbourne, not just Brisbane, right around Australia. So that's really what I do. I follow through. Once the home care provider has been selected, I offer 3, and we do an introduction to 3 home care providers or 3 residential aged care homes, or whether it be 3 retirement communities. It's the family's choice as to which one they choose. So then I keep in touch with them until the day that person passes away.
Oh.
So that's what I do in a nutshell.
Oh, is that all? Oh. Well, that's fantastic. And what I like about the work that you do is it's not just one option that you're offering. Now, we all see and hear of people who can help you in your aged care needs, but they're talking about one thing.
Well, they're promoting their own company.
They're promoting their own organisation.
Yeah.
What you're saying to me is that not only do you profile people, and that is get to understand them and what their needs are, and obviously bring up topics they don't even think about.
Yes.
So you are getting full knowledge, as much as possible, about those people.
Yes.
Before any recommendation is even considered.
Correct. There's no point jumping to the solution until we understand the problem and where they're at.
Yeah.
It's very, very important. And I think that people, if this is a new thing, no one in Australia has been doing what I've been doing, and it's aged care navigation. There's people that do placements, which is straight into residential aged care, and they give you a list of 3 homes, go, off you go, do the tours, and they get paid either by the home themselves or by the client and the home. I'm fully transparent. I get paid by the family. So that maintains my impartiality, my independence, to make sure we get the right fit for that client. So I'm not just aligned with, Bupa or Uniting or whatever. It's holistic, that I can actually bring up a comparative platform and find 10 in an area and get down to 3 that might suit, 3 or 4, depends on, that particular situation. And then one of the key things that I do is I often will get at the top of the wait list, because a lot of places don't have rooms available, but they really like that, and their loved ones being clinically accepted. So we might get pushed ahead of the queue because of, my reputation, and I bring really good quality clients to these people. I had one lady who was rejected from 92 homes because of her behaviour. And it was only because no one really understood what she had done. Her ACAT assessment, which is the government assessment, had pictured her as a really aggressive lady. But she had aphasia, which is a type of dementia. She couldn't understand or comprehend or verbalise her wants, needs and wishes. And there was everyone was going, we don't want to deal with that. There was one particular place that says, we've had other clients with aphasia, we'll take her. But the hospital social worker was prepared to move her to Wollongong, an hour and a half, 2 hours out of Sydney, when her husband was in Bondi Junction. I said, he's 80, he can't drive to and from there. We've got to find within a 30-minute radius for him to be able to go and support her and visit. We did. But it took 92 homes to reject her, and for me to come in and just go, let's look holistically at her wants and needs and wishes, and really understanding the external family and the larger family group as to what she was like before she got aphasia. What was it that gave her joy? Music. Just little things like that were captured, and that was all delivered to the home that we ended up placing her in. But it's not just finding a room, it's finding the person's next home. It's not just finding a carer to come in and help Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Brown. It's actually getting that right match. It's a profiling to make sure that we're going to get that right fit. I've got a lady at the moment, a GP, retired GP. She doesn't want people who haven't got the intelligence to have conversations with her. Yes, she has cognitive decline. She has dementia, but she's still in and out of cognition, that she wants someone that can have good, decent conversation with her. She likes politics. She likes music. So building that carer profile is key to getting that right outcome for her. So, that's what I do in a nutshell. And I think that any of your people in your retirement group here that would like to have a chat, feel free to reach out to me. I'm, obligation-free chat. My website, drcaresolutions.com. Reach out, have a look. There's testimonials in there, there's case studies, there's lots of blogs. Register for my blog. That goes out weekly, different topics. Last week was on enteral feeding, not just for people who are, for little babies and things like that, or people who are end of life. So many more people need to be fed through their stomach directly. Mm. They've got swallowing issues or other problems. So the blog topics are all on various things. It could be on, equipment for the home, modifications for the home. It could be planning ahead, getting your estate planning in order. So there's lots of tips and checklists that I send out and support families just to get prepared. And I always say to people, please plan ahead before a life event intervenes. If everyone's on the same page and it's documented, it makes it much easier for everyone else, including the person who's in the centre of it. It's all about them. So I really focus on, when I'm going to meet a family, that I'll talk to the parents. The family can be there. I'll only look to them if the parents can't answer the questions. So it's very important to hear from them themselves as to what they want.
Mm-hmm. And if anyone wants a personal referral to Danielle, and I'm happy to do it because I know Danielle well, I remember years ago with your mother when she was giving a talk at a conference in Brisbane, and that's what started all this association with your older business and now this one. I remember your mum standing up on a stage and explaining to everybody what it would cost to stay at home. If you were, let's say, a quadriplegic and you said, no, I've got the money, I want to stay at home. And it took me months to get over that because it was an absolute...
It was probably 350,000 at that stage.
It was more than that, actually.
Yeah.
And it was total shock as to what it costs to remain at home if you are disabled, not permanently disabled.
Yes.
Now, lesser disablement would reduce, of course, but I think what you're doing, and this excites me, you are giving people the full information.
Yes.
You're not hiding anything. You've got no benefit in recommending anybody or anything, and so you can be totally honest about the situation, just like your dear old mum. I remember
Yes.
well, she was just like that, and there was no question that there was confidence in what was going on in the relationships. And I see that with what you're doing for people.
And I think that you do have to build confidence and trust, because I think families, to let someone else into the home to understand what's actually happening, because families hide stuff. And it's when bringing in a third party, we seem to have this knack of letting them open up and feel comfortable. And some of the stories I hear, I could be a mediator, I could be a counsellor, I could be a psychologist, I could probably be a psychiatrist, a nurse, an occupational therapist, social worker. All of this is in my job. So when people say, oh, what you do is easy, I'm going, good luck to you. You know, it's not easy because I've been in the industry 36 years. I mean, it's like you. We've been in the industries that we're in for a very long time. It doesn't feel like work to me. I get such joy out of getting the right outcome for my clients. And I think that's... people say it shows because I do care and I keep in touch with the families. It's not just placing them into care and saying, good, I got paid for that one. It's not about that. It's actually maintaining, making sure, advocating to make sure that the person who is in the care is still getting the best quality care that they can get. You know, through COVID, I had to pull people out of residential aged care back home for those that hadn't sold their homes, because families saw the writing on the wall that everyone was going to lockdown. They wanted access to their loved one. So if they hadn't sold the home, they brought them home. I brought a couple out from the Blue Mountains in Sydney back home to their property in the Hills District, 5 acres property. We had 24-hour care with them. That wasn't easy through COVID, mind you, because the staffing shortage, workforce shortage was really tough. The male in the couple is terminally ill and he passed away. The wife improved so much when the carer was there. She only needed care 5 hours a day after he passed away. How good's that? So she's back to maintaining her independence. But ultimately, she could have remained in care and probably died at that stage because of COVID, the lockdowns and things like that. So, you know, we're agile enough to adapt to any environment, any circumstance. And I think working with the providers that I know have good quality recruitment processes, that they just don't outsource to anyone, that they actually train their carers, that they've got ongoing training and development, that's really important to me. Because there's new innovations all the time. There's new hoists, new lifters, there's new ramps and things that people don't know about. So it's actually working with those providers that are on top of stuff that is really key. And I suppose using an advocate, I suppose like myself, independence is key. And yeah, look, as I said, I'm more than happy to speak to any of your people in your retirement group about how I can support them, people they know, family members. Everyone knows someone that's aging. There's no doubt in my mind that, you know, I get talking wherever I go, my aunt, my uncle, this person, that person, my godfather, my godmother, my parents.
I saw one in the mirror today.
You're doing
but
okay.
You're right. And another thing I like about what you do is that the people who are going to support people going into these facilities or places, they want to know what it's about. They want to understand all the issues that are important. And you're there to ask the question.
That's right. The compliance issues and whether they've been sanctioned or
And all that broad information that we all like to know about what's going on.
Yes.
It's really important.
without bamboozling people as well. It's simplifying. So it's not talking the industry language. You know, it's not just talking about acronyms, because people don't understand what an ACAT is. ACAT is Aged Care Assessment Team, but it's ACAT assessment. So I'm going, well, why is it called an ACAT assessment when it's Aged Care Assessment Team assessment? So things like that, I talk in plain English.
Yeah.
What's a RAD? Refundable accommodation deposit. Why don't they just speak about that in full? What's a DAP? Daily accommodation payment. So it's actually just educating my clients on the journey as well. And I got some feedback from a client just this week, and she said, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't even know what a RAD was. You opened my eyes so that I could get the advice I needed to be able to support my husband going into care.
Yeah, yeah. It's so important, and I often, in the work I do, and that is teaching people the issues about retirement, I often mention to them that we must talk to people who know more than we do. We can guess and we can assume and we can have a go, but it's a waste of time. And I think Danielle has shown that it's far more important to talk to somebody who knows more than we do and take that guesswork out of it. And I think it's terrific what you're actually doing.
Thank you.
Got any other good stories that might be of interest to people?
I've got plenty. I've got 500.
Maybe one or two.
Well, look, I mean, even my own mum's end-of-life plan, doing that, like once she was terminally diagnosed as terminally ill, people thought I was so morbid by putting together a plan with mum for her end-of-life wishes. And you know what? We covered off every section of her life, and we developed a life-ready register that we collated everything in one spot, so that when she did pass and the estate was being distributed, everything was documented. Her driver's license, who we had to contact, her passport details, her insurance companies, everything about her life was in one life-ready register. So I've developed this document, and I'm happy to share it with any of your people, and it seems to be passed on to many, many people now. But it's gathering all your affairs in one place to help the estate, I suppose, when it's going through probate. But mum was very clear she wanted to die at home, but that didn't end up happening because she needed the medical care, and it happened too quickly. She ended up dying in hospital, but it was on her terms. She made the time when she said, I can't deal with this. If there's no more treatment, I can't keep going. So it was on her terms. And seriously, so many people said that was so morbid that I developed that plan for mum, but mum got everything she wished for, apart from dying.
I don't think it's morbid. That's what I did with my mum and dad. And it's so important that people get a say in this issue instead of just leaving this decline to continue. Yeah. Often they do have something to say, and something that is really beneficial to the family afterwards as well. So, I like that. Yeah.
And, I've had, probably in the last 12 months, I've had maybe 12 GPs, retired GPs. I don't know why, needing care. Many of them alcoholics. It's quite sad, actually. So you can understand the stress and pressure of being a GP or a medical specialist. But to find them the right care, because that intelligence piece, because they do come in and go out, maybe with dementia, some just frail-aged, but mainly with dementia. And it's been an interesting journey for me to see how many GPs are coming through as referrals. A couple of geriatricians have been sending clients to me because they've seen my life plans and they're going, we've never seen anything like this before. So, and that's to help people. As I said, my passion is to keep people at home longer. I had a gent who I only placed into care last year, and he'd had home care all that time. He had no cash, but he had a home worth $3.5 million. So we were able to organise some equity release that he could stay at home with care until it got to a point where he needed 2 carers twice a day. 12-hour shifts by 2 people. That was not being realistic. And I said to the daughter, I think it's time that we look for residential aged care. But they sold the house for probably $1 million more than when you first started. So they got all their money back anyway from paying out for care. So there's ways of supporting people through that process. I had another young chap who's my age, actually 56, Huntington's disease. And we were able to keep him at home until just this year. And he was one of my first clients, so if you're talking 2016, or 15, that he came and we got him help at home to maintain his independence for as long as possible. he's got to a point where the landlord where he was living said he's damaging his wheelie walker and his wheelchair and everything else, the property. I want to move back in, I want to renovate it, and I'll probably sell it. So we had to find somewhere else for him. Now, at 56, 57 years of age, you can't move someone like that into residential aged care. But I found a magnificent brand new group home on the lower North Shore of Sydney, and he's moved in there, and I've been keeping in touch with them. They said he's just settling in beautifully. But what we did for that, we've kept his private carers, his home carers, 5 hours a day, 7 days a week to take him out into the community. So he still feels like he belongs into the community, but comes home, he's got all his meals cooked for, there's care on site overnight if he needs it, and it's not costing him a bomb that it was with home care.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's wonderful stories, great outcomes that we've had. Many couples that I work with, some that husband might not be quite ready, the wife has dementia. How can we support them to move into care? That he's getting all his domestic duties and everything else, his meals cooked, but he's keeping an eye on his wife to make sure she's getting the care she wants. But as he's aging and his frailty is increasing, he won't need to move again. So I say it's a one move. We just really want to move people just once, and that's from home into care. And that's where people over the age of 80, I don't recommend retirement communities. It's too late because they're not going to get the benefit of the lifestyle, and the deferred management fee can actually not be as viable financially for people. So if you're thinking in your 60s and early 70s to move into a retirement community, go for it. Anyone over the age of 80, I strongly recommend against it. Some people don't listen and they want to do it, but before long they've got another move into care.
That's right. We've got to be careful. And there's a fair bit that all of us are getting older. And so what Danielle's talking about is critical. And the sooner we think about these things, learn about these things and understand, the better it is for everyone. So thank you for sharing that. It was just really quite exciting. I'm sure that there'll be people who want to contact you, and I'm thinking I'll contact you as well.
I don't think you need to. You're doing okay. I think you've been around me so often that you know what I do, and you could probably just say, am I on the right track, and you'll be fine.
Yes, but I do see it in our broader family.
Yes.
And this is what you're talking about too. That it's not just about you, there are other people that we can also care about and pass on this wonderful information.
Correct.
Danielle, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
I hope everybody enjoys it. I'm sure they'll be in touch.
Thank you. Thanks for that.